Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is addressing Parliament a day after Rahul Gandhi's fiery first speech as leader of the opposition.
करती रही है आदरणीय सभापति जी हम उस सिद्धांतों को
Members of the opposition could be heard shouting, quote, Modi government down throughout the Prime Minister's address. Now, despite that, Mr. Modi continued on, touching on his achievements of his last two tenures, while also criticising the opposition Congress for its politics of appeasement.
इस देश ने लंबे अरसे तक तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति भी देखी। इस देश ने लंबे अरसे तक तुष्टीकरण का गवर्नेंस का मॉडल भी देखा। अपीजमेंट ने इस देश को तबाह करके रखा है और इसलिए हमने जस्टिस टू ऑल, अपीजमेंट टू नन, इस सिद्धांत को लेकर के हम चले हैं।
Meanwhile, Rahul Gandhi has slammed the Speaker of the lower house for removing parts of his parliament speech yesterday, where he attacked the ruling BJP, alleging the party's leaders were creating hostility among the Indian people.
मोदी जी की दुनिया में सच्चाई एक्सपंज हो सकती है, मगर रियलिटी में सच्चाई एक्सपंज नहीं हो सकती है। जो मैंने कहा था, जो मैंने कहना था, मैंने कह दिया, वो सच्चाई है और एक्सपंज करें, जितना करना है करें, सच्चाई हो।
Well, for more, we have Neha Poonia joining us live from New Delhi. Neha, we heard those shouts over his speech. Perhaps a good first question. Take us through further details of Mr. Modi's address.
That's right. Prime Minister Modi was responding to a motion of thanks to the President's joint address to Parliament last week. That's usually how parliamentary proceedings kick off here in India. And it's a way for members of the House to reflect on the election, but also to highlight what they think will be important issues that will come up in the parliamentary session that will be held now and again at the end of this month, where the budget will be tabled. But, you know, Prime Minister Modi is someone who is known for his oratory skills. He's someone who usually has, an uninterrupted audience and rapt audience, beg your pardon, listening to him. And usually when he's spoken in Parliament in the past, you can hear a pin drop. This time, that was not the case. You had loud shouts and disruptions from the opposition benches, who now occupy a third of the lower house of Parliament, given their performance in the recently concluded elections. And they were shouting nearly throughout his speech. He's, still speaking and addressing the lower house. Chants like, "Stop this dictatorship," "Down with the Modi government," and shame were heard throughout, prompting Mr. Modi to shout out his address as well. In the beginning, he of course addressed what he thought were the milestones of his last two tenures, talking about what his government has achieved in terms of welfare schemes delivered, as well as, how the economy has done well under his leadership. And then he shifted track to outlining his vision, saying that he's going to work tirelessly to ensure India becomes a developed country by 2047. But towards the end of that speech, he also started targeting the opposition, talking about how through the election campaign this summer, they misled the country, tried to incite unrest, talking about how the elections were rigged and that Mr. Modi would win through unfair means. He also spoke about how the Congress and other opposition parties have done well, but they have still lost and were unable to defeat Mr. Modi 3 times now. And he called them sore losers who were now acting like children in the lower house of Parliament. He was particularly referring to Rahul Gandhi's speech and said that that was not in accordance with the decorum of the House.
And you mentioned Rahul Gandhi. There is the move to expunge parts of the opposition leader's speech unprecedented.
This is not uncommon. It does happen and has happened several times in the past. It's a way to ensure that any inflammatory section of a Member of Parliament's speech or something that's inaccurate does not get recorded in the permanent records of the lower house of Parliament. But because of the kind of friction we're seeing between the Treasury benches and the opposition benches, recent deletions have now become controversial. Something similar happened last year when Rahul Gandhi had alleged that Prime Minister Modi had close ties to Indian businessman Gautam Adani and spoke about the kind of undue influence Adani had over government decisions. Large parts of that speech were expunged as well. In this particular instance, Rahul Gandhi and the Congress, as well as opposition parties, protesting the deletions, accusing the Speaker of acting unfairly, saying this is an undemocratic move and is akin to silencing the opposition. They're also questioning why similar quote-unquote allegations made by a BJP MP that's from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party were not removed. You've also got the rules of the House which mandate that the Speaker has a final say in which bits are removed, and that's become the real point of contention here. Some even pointing out that Prime Minister Modi's speech this Tuesday evening also had various allegations, and critics are asking whether sections of his speech will be expunged as well. But this gives you a sense of the kind of showdowns we'll now see in Parliament, and this has become the latest sticking point between the opposition and the government.
All right, leave it there for now, but thank you very much, Neha Poonia, joining us live from New Delhi.